I realized at the age of 8, while living in Norway for 4 months when my father went on sabbatical, how important language is. My sister and I attended school in a tiny mountain town that was taught, of course, primarily in Norwegian. It was clear that language arts is essential across the curriculum when I couldn't even comprehend what subject we were working on at any given time. For me, this experience opened my eyes to the world, and surely it aided my progression from Piaget's pre-operational stage to concrete operational stage, so I could better see from others' perspectives. I want my students to think logically and to lose egocentric tendencies by exhibiting empathy, but to do so, I myself must demonstrate empathy by first truly knowing my students. Some studies have concluded that the number one factor to student learning is the effectiveness of the teacher. This resonates with my educational experiences, as my favorite teachers were the ones who took the time to get to know me and create a personal relationship. Because of this, I tried harder and cared more because I didn't want to let them down. To know my students, I must constantly formatively assess and actively observe. I also need to initiate conversations and become familiar with their tendencies to be able to know when to push and prod and when to step back, when to lift their spirits and when to challenge, and to recognize when something is off. Teachers need to keep the big picture in mind, because I think back on my education, I realized what a small percentage of what I was taught I've actually retained. Cognitivism emphasizes memory and reminds teachers to be realistic. I was taught in some psychology class, fittingly I can't remember which one, that on average students remember three things from any given course, and these things are usually big picture concepts. However, even if I can't remember the details from my third grade English instruction per se, I did build upon essential skills that I've continued to retain and improve. It's important to explicitly teach skills by first activating prior knowledge that can be built upon, and then giving time for students to construct novel understandings through inquiry that is hands-on personal discovery. Such experiential and discovery-based learning aligns with cognitive constructivism, which can be put into practice through the workshop model. Through such methodology, a gradual release of responsibility will occur, which is supported by cognitive apprenticeship theory. After explicit and differentiated modeling and coaching, whether on the whole group, small group, or individual level, students can practice skills immediately. From there, I can differentiate what students are working on and scaffold as appropriate. With practice comes mastery, and eventually students will have the knowledge and awareness to self-assess and monitor their own learning. Once they have reached this level of independent, critical thought, they can grow intrinsically and hopefully improve in any environment. Most importantly, though, they need to be able to apply skills in real-world situations, which is what situated learning theory stresses. To do so, students need practice in real-world settings, and when logistically impossible, well-simulated settings. Classroom environment is huge because, according to Vygotsky's social constructivism, learning occurs through interactions with the social environment, which is engaged through people, such as peers and teachers, and cultural artifacts, such as nature, books, and toys. I know how different a student can behave depending upon environment from personal experience as a parent for the last few years at an elementary school. Being able to observe and interact with students on the playground and then in the classroom, I have witnessed how drastically different some students are depending upon where they are. When with students, I have realized how receptive they are and that they are always watching. As Bandura's social learning theory emphasized with the Bobo doll experiment, people learn from and imitate models. To be an effective model, I believe you must gain respect through leading by example. It is crucial that your imitated actions teach students morality and perseverance so that they in turn become good peer models. It is always going to be easier to connect with peers because you are at a similar stage of development and have experienced phases of history from a similar perspective. Encouraging collaboration and alliance with distributed cognition and social constructivist theories is so important because students learn so much from each other through listening and teaching. It is also crucial to fostering the speaking and listening skills that are increasingly necessary in the hyperconnected 21st century. At the same time, personal connection cannot be lost amongst the technological age. Because of this, I will shape my classroom in a way to facilitate whole class and group discussion. I think that clustering desks at times and horseshoeing desks at other times are the most effective physical layouts of a classroom. It is evident that people like familiarity because in college classes, students naturally self-assign seats after the first week or so. However, sometimes things need to be shaken up and approached from a new angle, which my students will hopefully do as I facilitate in a way that allows them to be independent, creative, outside-the-box thinkers who examine with a critical eye and actively question the world. For this to happen, my students must be accepted as individuals and instructed differentially based upon these individualities. With reading, it is necessary to provide enough time and different types of texts and ways to be immersed in them. By knowing students, you can select appropriately and hopefully inspire readers to enjoy reading. I did not enjoy reading until being fortunate enough to be of the generation that aged with Harry Potter. Suddenly I wanted to read, and realizing the joy that can come from reading opened up so many doors. Finding the right material is huge, but to get students to have the right attitude to engage in the first place, technology can be utilized. The excitement of using technology can be used to engage students, and from there, interesting material can be viewed in all formats and in all content areas. Such philosophies of increasing engagement can be used for writing, which should be taught reflexively and allow differentiated instruction of students as they recursively move through the 5 stages. I was a student who could write an effective paper, but never really enjoyed it until I took a creative nonfiction writing class senior year just to fulfill a Gen Ed requirement and unexpectedly realized how fun writing can be. Varying format and subject of writing is essential to students finding their own writing passion, as I did. Individualized instruction is crucial, and this is effectively done through face-to-face explicit feedback with the proper scope so that you can challenge a student with a specific goal that is not over or underwhelming. This feedback should be accompanied with some type of self-esteem boosting, explicit positive comment. There may be some negative connotations with the extrinsically focused behaviorism theory, but positive reinforcement is absolutely necessary. Sometimes a simple smile can work wonders. Other times students need the competition and goal of a reward to give motivation and satisfaction in accomplishing something. After all, nobody goes to work just because they are intrinsically motivated to do so. Cashing that paycheck is a real factor. A key development in my education was when I realized how fun school could be in 5th grade when our math project was to essentially play what is now known as fantasy football. I loved it because of the competition, and I did the math because I could be rewarded by winning my matchup each week. On the other hand, it is not a coincidence that this experience was with a teacher who I looked up to and knew cared about me and challenged me to the point that I wanted to do my best for him. I realized that above all, how I carry myself affects the entire class. Every teacher will have their own philosophies and perspectives, but they are all irrelevant if they are not authentic and enthusiastic. To gain any respect, you must care about each individual student and want to be in the classroom with them every day. If you don't, it will unequivocally show.